What's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and Create Space. A link will be in the description box below. This video is entitled Being a King Without a Camelot. You know, people want to be alpha men, or we refer to ourselves as king and queen, but I think when people have a hard time functioning in society, and using the King Arthur analogy, I think people have a hard time functioning because people are operating under the belief that they are a king, but they have no Camelot. You know, and you have to operate differently if you're a king without a crown or a throne. I remember watching a movie recently with God dog, I forgot the guy's name. The guy that played Jax on the Sons of Anarchy. They remade a King Arthur movie, and I watched that movie. I liked it because it was showing the story of King Arthur raised in poverty, and he didn't operate as a king per se, because he was working himself from the ground up. He basically was just a hustler, criminal, who, you know, did a bunch of different things to get money. You know, he operated in that. So you could say he was royal blood, and he had a king's mind, but he couldn't operate in being regal because his situation didn't present that opportunity. And I think that's what a lot of cats are going through, because you don't have a Camelot. You don't have a round table of mentors and advisors to help you be successful. You don't have, you know, a Merlin. You don't have a Lancelot. You know, those kind of guys. I forget all the names. I'm not going to try to look them up right now. But a sir this and a sir that. You know, you don't have a team of guys who individually are men amongst men, but come to a table collectively for a greater cause, to make sure that the throne is secure. Not per se because they worship the king, but they worship the idea of putting a kingdom success before themselves. They all succeed because the kingdom succeeds, you know. But a lot of guys can't operate like that, because guess what? You don't have a team. And a lot of us weren't given a team. We don't have mentors. We are kings without crowns, without thrones, trying to figure out how to create a Camelot. And along the way, you're gonna make mistakes. You know, you are if you are a king without a Camelot, you're not afforded. You can't afford to make many mistakes, because if you're truly a king, people want to destroy you. Just like in that movie, like when he pulled Excalibur out of that rock, he didn't get praised; he got arrested. Like, yeah, the prophecy is coming true. We gotta lock this man up. He was about to get killed, executed, so we can just squash that. You know what I'm saying? The biblical story of Jesus, basically a king. That was his. He was the king, and the 12 disciples was his Camelot, right? And he had a traitor amongst that. But team nonetheless, right? And because there's so many people out here fighting and fending for their own kingdom, there are few round tables that are coming together. There are few guys who can understand that they may not be fit to be the king. You know, that you might feel like the king, but you may be a duke. You know what I'm saying? You may be his right hand man. You know, but you may not be the king. And you know, a lot of people have a hard time grasping the fact that they may not be deserving of the throne. Maybe it's not just that you didn't come from the royal lineages. Maybe you just can't handle the responsibility of what it takes to run a kingdom. And maybe the people that you're responsible for can't respect your mindset because it's not about kingdom and people first. It's about self indulgement and a self-indulging mentality. So, you know, I think a lot of us have an issue with that. We don't know our own lineage, or we know a little bit about it, you know. And now we're going out into the world half a man because we don't know our whole story, our whole lineage, what our name represents, what people who have our name have accomplished. we started from ground zero with each generation. You know, we're allowing meddlers to dictate who we are and who we should be. And that's why there's a lot of confusion. Because, you know, if you've been pimping, and your family member was assistant pimps, you know, you don't even know that. You just feel like you're entitled to that top spot. And then there are some people who just go out into the wilderness and come back with the furs on their back and medals and fortresses and soldiers because they prove themselves over and over and over again to the point where you got to work your way up to the king because the king had to work his way up to the throne. You know, but that's few and far between. You know, a lot of people use coping mechanisms to pass time that could be used building because they still can't cope with the fact that they don't have a Camelot. They don't have anybody to point them in the right direction, guide them in the right direction, show up right on time to say not that way, this way. You know, and you find yourself replaying your mistakes or not being able to look your fear in the eye, not being able to have any type of resolve and know that you can come out on top in any situation that you've been put into. And I think a lot of guys, it mentally just tears them up. Because, and some guys have taught that they were kings without a Camelot, and they're just going out into the world with their chest poked out, but completely incompetent. Because they don't know what it takes to actually lead. Because somebody just told them if you put the crown on and the robe on and you just walk with your back straight and just look like you're regal, that's all you need. And you can't fake being a king. You know, you have to grow into that. You have to become a king. You can't act like a king. You know what I'm saying? And what winds up happening is you got a lot of actors out here. And the problem is, people fall for the act because there's so few kingdoms and Camelots out here that people just want to belong. And people wind up getting let down. And most of you kings don't care about your subjects. Because as long as you're there to help them afford their coping mechanisms, that's all they're in it for. You got a lot of guys who act like kings raised by Marie Antoinette, and don't act like Excalibur has a responsibility, and the throne doesn't have a responsibility, and the crown isn't heavy, and you have to be able to stand as a representation for your whole kingdom and your council. And sometimes some of us haven't finished certain rites of passage where the council comes together. We're just playing around. You can't be found if you're always hidden, and you want to be hidden. If you want to be a king, you got to stand up and take the steps it takes to wear the crown. Concubines don't make you king. The kingdom does. We out.